Welcome to Realms of Rivalry, a concept that brings together legendary characters from diverse realms and civilizations, putting them against each other in epic battles. The alien world was dying. Its surface was a desolate wasteland of scorched earth, molten rivers, and skies filled with the ashen remnants of a once thriving civilization. Towering ruins stretched like skeletal fingers toward a blood-red sky, their jagged edges framed by the eerie glow of distant stars. In the heart of this devastation stood Doomsday, a monstrous figure of bone and muscle, radiating an aura of relentless destruction. He towered over the landscape, his every step a seismic event that shattered the ground beneath him. The air around him seemed to ripple with the sheer force of his presence, a testament to the unyielding power that had already obliterated this world's defenders. The alien survivors, huddled in underground bunkers, whispered prayers to gods who no longer seemed to answer. Their final act of desperation had been to send a distress signal into the cosmos, a cry for help that many believed would go unheard. But across the infinite void, their plea reached the ears of one who had long been wandering the universe, seeking solace from his own inner turmoil. Bruce Banner, or rather the entity he had become, the world-breaker Hulk, stood aboard a small, battered spacecraft. His massive frame barely fit within the confines of the ship, his green skin glowing faintly with gamma energy. His eyes, twin orbs of molten rage, stared at the transmission replaying on the ship's console. The images of destruction were all too familiar. He had seen it before, on Earth and beyond, and he felt a pang of guilt knowing that he had been the source of such devastation in the past. But this time was different. This time, he could channel his rage for a purpose. With a deep growl that reverberated through the ship, he set a course for the dying planet, his mind already bracing for the confrontation to come. The spacecraft descended into the atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot as it tore through the thick clouds of ash and smoke. Doomsday's attention snapped to the sky, his predatory instincts sensing the arrival of a new challenge. The ship's landing was far from graceful. It slammed into the ground with enough force to create a crater, sending debris flying in all directions. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the crackling of flames and the distant groans of the planet's collapsing infrastructure. Then, from the wreckage, he emerged. The world-breaker Hulk stepped into the open, his colossal form dwarfing even the ruins around him. His muscles bulged with barely contained power, and the very ground seemed to quake beneath his feet. His gaze locked onto Doomsday, and the two titans sized each other up in a moment of tense stillness. It was as if the universe itself held its breath, aware that this clash would reshape the fate of the cosmos. With a thunderous roar, Hulk charged. His massive fists swung with the force of an avalanche, aiming directly for Doomsday's chest. The impact created a shockwave that flattened everything within miles, a deafening explosion of sound and energy. Doomsday staggered but did not fall. Instead, he retaliated with a bone-crushing punch of his own, sending Hulk skidding backward and carving a deep trench into the earth. Their collision was a symphony of destruction, a raw display of power that left the landscape in ruins. Hulk's rage intensified with each blow he received. He roared again, louder this time, and leapt into the air with a speed that belied his massive size. His fists came down like meteors, driving Doomsday into the ground. But Doomsday was no ordinary foe. He rose almost instantly, his body already adapting to the force of Hulk's attacks. A jagged bone spike erupted from his arm, and he swung it with deadly precision, slicing through Hulk's side and drawing green blood. Hulk grunted in pain, but did not falter. If anything, the injury only fueled his fury. The battle raged across the ruins of the alien city, their titanic struggle reducing what little remained to rubble. Doomsday hurled entire buildings at Hulk, who shattered them mid-air with devastating punches. Each strike they exchanged sent shockwaves rippling across the planet, triggering earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The sky itself seemed to darken further, as if mourning the destruction below. Hulk began to realize that brute force alone would not be enough to stop Doomsday. The creature's adaptability was unlike anything he had faced before. He would have to fight smarter. As the epic unfolds, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more epic adventures. As they clashed atop a mountain range, Hulk used the terrain to his advantage. He grabbed massive boulders and hurled them with pinpoint accuracy, forcing Doomsday to defend against a barrage of attacks. When Doomsday charged, Hulk sidestepped at the last moment, sending the creature tumbling down a jagged cliff. But Doomsday was relentless. He climbed back up with frightening speed, his body now showing signs of new adaptations to counter Hulk's tactics. It was then that Hulk unleashed his gamma burst. Channeling the immense energy within him, he released a blinding explosion of green light that engulfed the battlefield. The shockwave leveled mountains and evaporated rivers, leaving behind a barren wasteland. Doomsday staggered for the first time, his body momentarily overwhelmed by the sheer force of the blast. Hulk stood in the epicenter of the devastation, his chest heaving as he glared at his opponent. But Doomsday was far from defeated. He rose again, his form now altered to resist the gamma energy. Hulk's eyes narrowed and a low growl escaped his lips. This was a battle of endurance as much as strength, and he was determined to outlast the monstrosity before him. The fight moved to the remnants of an ocean, where Doomsday used the water to his advantage, creating massive waves to disorient Hulk. But Hulk adapted, using his growing strength to part the waves and create a path directly to his foe. Their clash reached its climax on a shattered moon, orbiting the dying planet. The moon's surface cracked and crumbled beneath their feet as they exchanged blows that could rival the force of a supernova. Doomsday, now desperate, unleashed his most savage attacks, driving Hulk to his knees. But even in the face of such overwhelming power, Hulk refused to yield. His rage burned brighter than ever, pushing him to new heights of strength. With a final roar that shook the very fabric of space, Hulk delivered a gamma-fueled punch that shattered Doomsday's defenses. The creature collapsed, his body unable to regenerate fast enough to counter the onslaught. Hulk stood over his fallen foe, his massive frame heaving with exhaustion. The alien world was silent, the battle's echoes fading into the void. As the survivors emerged from their bunkers, they looked upon Hulk with a mixture of awe and fear. He had saved them, but the cost of his power was evident in the devastation around them. Without a word, Hulk turned and began to walk away, leaving the broken planet and its people behind. He knew that his battle was not truly over. Somewhere, another challenge awaited, and the rage within him would never rest.